Today's sermon was written by the Reverend Charles Hoffacker of Maryland. There are two senses of the word pride. Sometimes pride refers to the self-respect and strength needed to sustain a group in the face of hardship. Pride of this kind can be acceptable, even necessary. Another meaning of this word refers to inordinate self-esteem, a self-esteem that is out of line, excessive, unreasonable, and thus dangerous. Pride of this second type is attacked vigorously in today's readings. Our passage from Sirach declares, "The beginning of pride is sin, and the one who clings to it pours forth abominations." In Luke's Gospel, Jesus counsels us to take the lowest place at social events and calls us to show hospitality to those unable to repay the gesture. Hebrews takes this point and runs with it. Show hospitality to strangers. Demonstrate concern for prisoners. Respect marriages. Shun greed. Do not give in to fear, but live by faith. This passage is loaded with calls to remedy our pride by how we live. Destructive pride stands in contrast to pride based in self-respect. Yet destructive pride also stands in contrast to something else, a different sin, but a related one. This other sin goes by the name of acedia. This sin is arguably the more common of the two. Pride errs when it places self at the center, when it builds a high tower of isolation. In contrast, acedia involves a person shrinking from existence, slipping into a pool of hopeless non-being. What these sins have in common is they refuse our status as creatures dependent on God. They reject the gift of created contingent life. Some of us violently assert ourselves. We sin boldly. Others of us shrink into nothingness. Rather than climb up, we slide down. Both acedia and pride are based on a truth ripped from its proper context. The truth behind pride is that we are something. We are creatures sustained and loved by God. What's the fatal falsehood? Pride refuses to recognize that we are not God. The truth behind acedia is that we are nothing. Creatures utterly dependent on God for our existence from each second to the next. What's the fatal falsehood? Acedia refuses to recognize that we are loved by God. In some places, the preacher's priority may be to help people overcome their pride. But in many places in our culture, the priority lies in helping people overcome their acedia. To overcome acedia, it is helpful to recognize its different forms. The author, William Stafford, mentions 3 of these in his book, Disordered Loves, Healing the 7 Deadly Sins. These are sloth, self-abdication, and despair. Sloth involves laziness, inertia, procrastination, and shirking responsibility. It is more subtle, more serious than the stereotype of a teenager who resists taking out the trash. Sloth appears when, for no good reason, we turn down opportunities for service and growth. We avoid interaction with our children or grandchildren. We sleep in on Sunday morning. We value spiritual practices like Bible study, but never get around to them. We sidestep anything that may make us think. Any of these may be symptoms of sloth. According to Stafford, self-abdication means to empty out oneself in idol worship rather than growing towards God, seeking significance in some other human being or cause or circumstance. We can live for specific other people and call it love, when in fact it is idolatry, worshiping someone else in the place of God. We can become workaholics or fanatics for some cause, even a religious one, that prevents us from having a life, much less a life with God. Where ascetia can finally lead us is to despair. Here we reject that God is always doing a new thing. We slam the door of our heart on even the possibility of grace. William Stafford summarizes the overall dynamic of ascetia. Spiritual withdrawal and depression, he tells us, often start with dishonest prayer, refusing to raise some issue with God, rejecting the summons, getting tired of God's silence and walking away. It is natural enough to feel hurt or rejected by God when disasters leave wounds, or if one's spiritual aspirations are simply left hanging for years. Yet those might be taken as invitations to the cross, to die to one's own self in a new way and live in sheer dependence on God, even in the dark. Ascetia rejects that invitation. It chooses to live and die on the margins of its own nothingness, rather than launch out further into the abyss of God. Such then is ascetia, a disease of the soul no less dangerous than pride. For many of us, ascetia is not something that happens rarely. It is instead a chronic condition. Where can we find relief? What is its remedy? We must see our emptiness not as a horrid absurdity, but as a necessary prelude to that true life, which is not the swelling of our ego, but an unexpected gift from God. We must believe that the way to fullness takes us through emptiness. William Johnston, in his book Mystical Theology, reminds us that this is the pattern found in the Bible. For example, Abraham, ready to sacrifice his only son, is filled with joy as he hears the promise that his offspring will be more numerous than the stars of the heaven or the sands of the seashore. Mary cries out that God has regarded the emptiness of his handmaid, so all generations will call her blessed. Blessed are the poor, the radically empty, for they shall be glorified. The merciful, the hungry, and the mourners will inherit the kingdom. The way out of ascetia means conforming our lives to the pattern of Jesus, to the paschal mystery we say in the Eucharistic prayer. Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come again. The way out of ascetia is to live the Eucharist, accepting our emptiness because we have faith that this emptiness will be occupied not by self, but by God. When pride takes over, we are full of ourselves. When ascetia takes over, we slip into nothingness. But when Christ takes over, his experience becomes our own. An emptying occurs in order that we may be filled. A dying takes place that we may rise again. We recognize ourselves at last in the light of humility. As it says in 2 Corinthians, as dying and see, we are alive. And the glory is not ours, but it belongs to God. Amen.